Hey everyone, Skull902 here, and I'm going to be taking a trip today with my memory lane buddies. Today is the second episode, and we're going to be discussing our top three favorite consoles or gaming platforms in general. So, handheld consoles, computer gaming, those are also eligible for this conversation. I'm joined here today by Lost Leader and Tails the Prower 71. Hello.
Hey,
Hello.
nice to see you all. Hopefully this memory lane will be good for y'all. And hopefully you agree with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, goodness. Uh, so, for those of you who are watching the VOD here, you can interact with us live next time if you join at the podcast audience channel membership level. Next month will be a Sailor Moon related podcast that will have some special guests, including KN of Sonic Song 182. Uh, so, there's that little plug. But as far as favorite consoles and whatnot, we're going to be discussing our top three, as well as some honorable mentions, some games that we like for these consoles, and so on and so forth, and just have a good time reminiscing about you know all that sort of thing. So, you guys ready?
Let's
Yeah,
do it.
I'm absolutely ready on this. I have a little prepared chart and everything.
Alrighty then. Let's get into our honorable mentions first. Just a quick little segment here. Uh, Now, when it comes to my top three, I have a pretty good idea, but the honorable mentions were a bit tough to pick. But I went with uh, first the Nintendo 64, uh, and then the original Xbox. Uh, as far as like the Nintendo 64, like I've had two of them over the years. We had one for a very brief amount of time, and then that got traded back. Hi, Spidey, welcome. And then the second one was a random gift from like a next door neighbor. Uh, and as far as like games on that one that I hold near and dear, uh, I was almost thinking about like making Cruisin' USA my mention here, but I'm gonna go with the Aki Wrestling Quadrilogy, particularly WWF No Mercy. Lots of hours spent just creating characters in there, and like when you got like a game like that where you can just have fun doing customization and whatnot. Oh man. And it was a fun wrestling game too, so that's my first honorable mention.
So
How about you guys?
so oddly enough, I have heard a bit about the wrestling scene on the N64. And from my personal understanding, wrestling really hasn't been good since. Would you consider that the case?
Um, well, I feel like it really depends on what company you're talking about and when. Uh, but like as far as wrestling video games go,
Yeah, video games I mean specifically.
uh,
For
yeah, coincidentally, one of my considerations for uh, honorable mention on the original Xbox was another wrestling game. So uh, I think there's been good ones since the N64, but like the N64 one set such a high bar that it's really hard to reach up there again. Not to mention they don't individualize the games a whole lot anymore. It's like that EA Sports deal where they make the game uh, and whatever problems it has, and then they just slightly tweak it every year instead of just like going from the ground up most of the time. So yeah, wrestling games kind of lost their speciality in that sort of respect.
fair.
Mm-hmm. Fair.
So you guys, your first honorable mention.
Uh, for me, I think my first honorable mention will be the original NES, Nintendo Entertainment System, and it has to be on this list because that was the console that got me into video games in the first place. I still have it. It still works. I still have the original controllers, power cords, AV cable. Um, it all it all works, which is super amazing. And I've owned it since 1988 when I was 4 years old. My parents got it for me for Christmas, along with Mario, Super Mario Brothers, and Duck Hunt as well. So that was, oh my gosh, and those are the games too for the NES honorable mentions there.
Uh, can
And
I can I just say I'm really happy to hear, Tails, that you're a very responsible console owner, because I was not as a child, and I did not keep a lot of my stuff. So to hear that you have it from all the way back is really nice.
yeah, I never got rid of my consoles. So like I still have my NES. And all the consoles, and some of them I'm going to mention here in a little bit as well. So I'll spoilers. So I'll wait for those moments. And I think my second honorable mention would have to be the Wii. The Wii was extremely innovative with its motion controllers and whatnot, and just given the time it was, my God, I mean, there's a reason why that console sold out like, like overnight. Like you could not find them for months at a lot of places.
The Wii was like almost impossible to find for like 2 years. It was
It
insane.
was.
So I
I
do have.
got lucky. I got my Wii from Toys R Us in it like 2008 is when I got my Wii. And I know it came out in '06, but I could never find it anywhere. Finally, I got lucky at Toys R Us and I got like the last one they had. So,
Yeah,
No, I feel you on that. I feel like that is a consistent theming with getting a Wii back in that day.
yeah,
Is getting the last one.
I know we were kind of actively looking for one for like the first 2 years it was out as well, and it was just nowhere. Never saw one in person until years later. Uh,
yep.
and good pick by the way, because that was one of the ones I was kind of struggling with for my honorable mentions. I do have some good memories with my own Nintendo Wii as well. Uh,
Uh,
My favorite games like from the Wii too, like are Zero Gravity, Sonic Rider Zero Gravity. I absolutely love that game. And the problem is there's a few games, Sonic related stuff, like Sega Superstars Tennis. I played the hell out of that game.
Oddly
Um
enough, it was on a console in particular that I have, and I have fond memories of that from that console, but not the Wii.
yeah, I gotcha. That's cool. And yeah, and my Wii was also my GameCube because I never owned a GameCube. And that is another reason I love the Wii.
Yeah.
So once I got my Wii, I'm like, oh shit, let's get some GameCube games. So what did I get? Like Shadow the Hedgehog, for example, and Sonic Heroes and Adventure 2, and whatnot. So like, yeah, the Wii became like my ultimate mega console for a while there, and just oh my god, thank you Nintendo for doing the Wii. And I'm so sad that like any of like the Gen 2 Wiis did not offer like GameCube support, which I think is really sad. So
yeah.
I will never ever let go of my Wii, of my Gen 1 Wii. I will never let go of it. If it breaks, I will repair it.
I definitely want to say in particular with the Wii, I think something that should be mentioned too is the Virtual Console and the WiiWare itself.
Mm,
There are several WiiWare games that are kind of lost to time now. Castlevania Rebirth and a few other
Yes.
things like that. Those aren't around legally anymore, and it's kind of cool in the sense that Nintendo was the first one to actually properly promote indies. I know Xbox Live Arcade was kind of doing it, but not to the degree that the Wii was doing it. So it was really nice to see. And the Virtual Console just set a really nice precedent for the future, even though it also set a bad precedent. But
and
Mm-hmm.
if they had just stuck to that model, that would have been great. But then companies had to company and make it worse. Uh,
Unfortunately.
Yeah, with the Wii, like I got some good memories, like I mentioned earlier, and Lost mentioned the Virtual Console. That's how I beat the original Super Mario Brothers for the first time. Uh, so yeah, some good picks there, TTP. Lost,
Yeah, for honorable, I'm just like it's already stacked.
yeah,
Uh,
your honorable mentions, Lost.
I have two honorable mentions because you said I could have up to two, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna get the max amount here. Let's win max.
Yep.
Oddly enough, Skulls, we agree with one of them. N64 is my first honorable mention, and I say this in the sense that it's the most nostalgic console for me because it's the one that has Ocarina of Time, and I play that game. I want to say about 20 to 30 times, somewhere around there. So like all the pixel graphics and whatnot, or polygon graphics, just to say, they're very reminiscent of like, oh, this was like in my childhood or like when I was in high school and whatnot. And when I was sick, I would play this when I was down. And that to me, the N64 feels more nostalgic than it does anything else. And when I look back on the library, it actually wasn't that good comparatively to a lot of the other consoles that we'll probably be talking about today. But when the N64 had hits, it had hits. Ocarina of Time,
Yes.
as I said before, 100% my favorite game of all time, legitimately. But Banjo-Kazooie, the series itself, is a proper reason why I made a lot of friends. Uh, oddly enough, Banjo-Tooie's Hard Canary track at the very end was the reason why I sought out to make a friend, and it ended up happening to where I just kind of developed a different friend group entirely from what I used to have. So it's kind of insane that
Wow.
that
Hmm.
happened.
That's interesting you bring that up, Loss, because you talk about making, your friend group changed and whatnot, and and the relevance of that with the N64. Kind of interesting you bring that up because when the N64 launched, and rest in peace to my N64, I loaned mine to a friend, and he smashed it, and I never got it
What?
back.
Why did he
Yeah,
smash it?
rage quit. Um,
Oh my
and
God.
yeah, we're no longer friends, just for the record.
Yeah.
But
I could see
Yeah, after
why.
the property damage, I'd hope not.
yeah, no. And he was like, "Well, I'll buy you a new one," and I'm just like, "Dude, like, this was long after. Like, you're not gonna find a brand new one. Like, you've." I was so mad. I was so mad. But anyway, that's not the point. The
I,
point
I
is,
think I think the bigger thing here is that like your friend was not respecting you in the sense they did not respect your property.
bingo, exactly,
Yeah.
bingo, and that really yeah, there's a whole story behind it. I don't want to get into it, but there's a whole story behind it. He raged and ended up just like he smashed the controllers and then inadvertently smashed the console with it, um and it I was just like, okay, great, thanks, like, cool. And so I lost, not only did I lose my console, I lost all my games too. So like,
Oh.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I have nothing from my N64 anymore, which is really sad because what I want to break into the honorable mentions was tough, and I really wanted to put N64 because GoldenEye was my jam. That game, like, I probably logged thousands of hours playing GoldenEye, and Super Smash Brothers. Um, like, and it was also at a time for me in high school where I was kind of in that weird spot in life where it was just like, I don't know where I belong, and
Hmm.
I don't know where, like my friends were off like doing their own thing and things like that, and here I am, like I was the kid that was never invited to school parties and stuff like that. So all my friends would disappear on the weekends. So what did I do? Well, I just sit in my room and fire up the N64 and take out my teenage angst, using Pikachu and Super Smash Brothers, or playing GoldenEye, and
Oh, so you're high terror scum is what I'm hearing.
yeah, pretty much. So I just like
Did you
the
use the
N6
Hat Man? Did you use the Hat Man in GoldenEye from my understanding?
Ob Job. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
Ob
so
Job.
yeah, you are a high terror trash. Oh wow, he is banned. You're not supposed to use him. His hitbox is lower than everybody else's.
That is
Tails,
true.
what's happened here?
Welcome to high school me, Lost.
Teenage Inks indeed.
Seriously, but no, you guys bring up some good points though on the on the N64. So I'm glad that it's on this list because I really wanted to put it on this list, but then I just started thinking about it, and the Wii and the NES were very symbolic in a lot of ways for me. But the N64 is definitely right up there too, and for sure, if I could, it would have been an honorable mention as well.
Oh man.
As
Uh,
for my second honorable, I do want to say it's specifically because of this game, the GameCube. And the reason why I put it up there is specifically for Metroid Prime. Uh, there's something a bit magical about putting in a game in Christmas morning and just being dazzled by it. And there's no other game I could think of that dazzled me more than Metroid Prime in that regard. I don't know what they did to sell their soul and make literally one of the most astoundingly beautiful games of all time, especially on something like the GameCube, but they did it. They did it so hard. And the thing that gets me the most is that, like, Metroid Prime even had that little feature where you could actually connect the Game Boy Advance to it. And I did that with my Metroid Fusion, and you get like a little Metroid Fusion suit for that, on top of the fact that you actually unlock Metroid, the old school Metroid on your Game Boy Advance that way too, which was really neat. But suffice to say, like, the GameCube has like a lot of neat little niche things that it could do, and I just feel like that purple lunchbox is probably the neatest console ever that just doesn't have any support aside from first party. You got like maybe 2 or 3 games that like were properly done, as like it's better on the GameCube, but for the most part, it's kind of trash with its third party library. But like everything else with first party or Nintendo had some sort of like hand deal with was astounding. And love the GameCube for that. And I love Melee and all the other ones, but Metroid Prime was the clear one every time I think about GameCube.
Hmm.
a fantastic choice. We'll be hearing more about the GameCube later.
Oh no.
Uh, I did briefly go over it, but I'll just delve a little bit into the original Xbox. My second honorable mention uh, got it by, from what I understand, to be complete surprise. This was during that real rough patch that I've mentioned before. Like anytime I talk about Star Fox Adventures, uh, my dad just kind of pulled into Target one day, told my siblings and I to just stay put for a second. Uh, we were supervised, just to make that clear, uh,
Hmm.
Hmm.
by by my
Oh
uncle's girlfriend.
yeah, yeah, sure, yeah. That person that you totally just made up right now. No, got you.
No, I assure you this is true. He came back a few minutes later, just with an original Xbox and 3 extra controllers. Uh, so that was really neat. Kind of lifted our spirits a little bit too, especially with what was included, because that was in early 2003, and anybody who got an original Xbox in early 2003, late '02, were blessed. And I do mean blessed with the Jet Set Radio Future Sega GT 2002 combo. Uh, that it had the previews for other games on it, and then of course it had those 2 games. In particular, of course, I want to mention Jet Set Radio Future. Oh my God, that game is so fun. Uh, and it has been too goddamn long since I've last played it, but it's unique aesthetic. Like that was the first time I really ever saw anything with cell shaded graphics. Uh, and its themes, skating around, just always felt really good. And like its blend of you know, like aesthetic and different sort of cultural things too, like how it makes use of different genres in its wonderful fucking soundtrack. Like we got like a blend of rap and rock and like electronic music, and it all sounds like it belongs together. Like the Sega did a bang up job with that one. So it was tough to pick my honorable mentions, but like the original Xbox, I think created a good few memories, and Jet Set Radio Future had a lot to do with uh, you know getting me jump started on that.
It definitely feels to me, Skulls, like you're the kind of person that's going to see people talking about the new Jet Set Radio, and they're going to be like, I can't believe they made a sequel. And you're like, no, it's a trilogy. That sounds like what you're going to do, right?
I mean, if we want to get technical, like Future's kind of sort of a remake of the original in the first place. So it's like we're getting three remakes. If this next one isn't a sequel, uh, just imagine that actually. If each Jet Set Radio game was just a remake of the original, wouldn't that be weird?
Have Star Fox.
That'd be weird. Yeah.
You're just talking about Star Fox.
Well, Star Fox had direct sequels though.
That's true.
I'm not really.
64 Adventures,
64
Assault,
was
and then
not.
Command.
64 was a remake.
That's what I'm saying. Like it starts from 64, and then
No, it
we
starts
get
from the SNES.
okay. The
Star Fox
continuity
NES.
reboot starts from 64.
No, because then you have Star Fox 2.
That's a sequel to the original game.
Yes, but it wasn't directly after the fact, Skulls. That's what I'm saying. We have like 4 different remakes of the first game.
So moving on to our number 3 picks.
Well, before you go to your number 3, one comment on the Xbox. First of all, Skull leans over, looks at my 2002 OG Xbox.
Hey, there we go. Oh yeah, that reminded me on the point of like still having our original consoles. Well, with the N64, that's not so much because like again we had our first one for only a little bit, but like mostly that's the case over on this side too. The ones that I'm talking about are in my closet right now. And then the N64 and the Xbox are with my older brother in the room over. So yeah.
So one extra thing I would like to talk about for the Xbox, and I just really need to give this a shout out. The magazine specifically, nearly every issue had a demo.
Yeah.
And it's generally shocking how many demos there are out for Xbox. And as someone that likes to collect demos and whatnot, I'm dreading it, but I'm also super excited. Because like demos are like the most interesting thing in our gaming history, I think.
One thing that I will say about the Xbox as well, Halo, OG Halo, Combat Evolved. Oh my God. Again, many hours in that game, but probably the most memorable thing is I got mine in Christmas of 2002, and that was my senior year of high school. And so I started college with my OG Xbox, and I was in a all men's choir at that time, and I actually asked my choir director if we could do the opening to the Halo soundtrack. You know, where you hear the kind of that Gregorian chant at the beginning. I asked my choir director if we could do that, like for a concert, and he actually agreed. So just as a joke, before like the lights came up on us at our first concert, we actually did that chant, and you could have heard a pin drop in that auditorium. It like you could you instantly knew who the gamers were in that auditorium. Like it was beautiful.
I am amazed that your very nerdy plan worked out for you, but that's cool though.
I want to say this particular about the relationship between Halo and boys. Uh, I've never seen uh boys necessarily like be more like on the one-to-one with each other than it is with them talking about the Halo 1 theme, specifically when someone starts singing it.
It's like, it's a signal of sorts. One person starts it, and then another person joins in, another person joins in. It really is magic.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
fight it.
It's
No.
really cute. I love it. It's one of those nice little things that I see.
It's great.
Yeah. So our number three picks. Lost. We'll start with you.
All right, for sure. Mine, believe it or not, is the PlayStation 3. And I know that might be a bit of a like, what do you mean it has no games type situation? But when you look at the statistics and the way things went down during that time, its beginning was awful, but like somehow near the end of it, it was winning that console war specifically. It generally is one of my favorite consoles that I have had, and I have a ton of games for it. I want to say I have probably like maybe 300 games just for the PS3 alone. Um, Not quite sure. It might be part of collection, things like that. But how I acquire the PS3 is actually kind of a fairly interesting story because I did not get my PS3 at launch. I got my PS3, I want to say about right before the PSN hack happened, if y'all can remember that.
Oh yeah.
So let's
Mm-hmm.
talk about like maybe like a month or so before that fact. So I got settled in, but I didn't have everything. And I got it from my brother in particular due to a debt that he owed me. He wanted to move back home and he needed money. And I recently acquired some money from my father's passing and whatnot, as inheritance is going to be. And he's like, I need this money to come back. And I was like, okay, sure. I'll go ahead and give that to you. He's like, what? You would really do that? I'm like, yeah, you're my friend. I don't care. Like, just pay me back. And he was just able to do that with the PS3. Um, One of them situations where just like I wanted to get it over with, and it would have been money that I spent to get the PS3 anyway. But at the time it was cheaper than what it used to be. Those $599 US,
Yeah.
which is a pretty funny
Yeah.
meme.
Things really did improve after the Slim came out.
Yeah, yeah. But just some fantastic features for the PS3 that I don't think people really remember is just the UI design in particular is probably the best it's ever been on the PS3. And it makes me a little sad because nowadays, the way they have updated the firmware is no longer up to speed of what it used to be, specifically with the internet and whatnot. They just kind of abandoned that server. So navigating the PlayStation store is now horrendously awful comparatively. But like the console itself, the way the UI is just very sharp. Everything is detailed on where you want to go. You have a music video section and a bunch of other stuff. It's wonderful. It was also where a lot of the PS1 games were met, and you could also get some old PS2 games if you downloaded them. Some PS3 consoles could play PS2 games if you had the really old ones, but and I can't stress this enough to people, all PS3 game consoles can play PS1 games. And it seems like a lot of people don't understand that, but it uses the same lenses as the
Mm-hmm.
PS1 does. So you can play your PS1 games, all your PS1 games on your PS3, which is really neat because if you do that with the PS2, it actually ruins the lens more. You should really just trick to it like to the PS2 for PS2 games.
And there's only about two or three games that won't work with the emulator on it, so it's really impressive levels of backwards compatibility that the Xbox 360 wishes that it would have had.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yep.
It's generally insane how well it did. And this is also the era too where a lot of the remakes that were being made, they were just like blank HD. Like you'll have Okami HD, God of War, the PSP game specifically in an HD format, or Ratchet and Clank. So like collecting in this era specifically was a godsend because you effectively got like 3 games for the price of like $10 if you're like really good with yourself. And because the PS3 didn't do so hot in the beginning, a lot of the PS3 games were lower in price comparatively, but the quality of the disc for the PS3 is a Blu-ray, so you're not going to expect any kind of disc rot comparatively to something like the Xbox. And the scratching the Blu-rays of the PS3 is far harder to do. You have to actively try to do it in order to do that. You also have neat little features like Portal 2. If you got it on the PS3, you would actually get that for free on the PC, which I know not a lot of people remember, but that used to be a thing. There's a lot of really, really neat things about the PS3 that just like I feel people tend to forget because the PS4 feels like it's just PS3 HD, you know? But enough of the features and whatnot. I do need to talk about the games in particular. The Infamous series generally shocked me with how it was. Not in the sense that the Infamous 1 was good, but in the fact that Infamous 2, I think till this day, has my favorite evil ending. And for those out there that know, they should know what I'm talking about here. It is just truly just a wonderful series all around. And I'm really sad that it became what it is now because the PS4 version is not that great. Aside from that, the only other game that I can remember I really loved about it was Catherine. I legitimately played all the way through that game the day it came out. That was about 11-hour marathon of
Oh
just
my
me
God.
playing through Catherine. And I got the true ending, like the truest of endings there.
Oh
Um,
wow.
so like you can see that it's the first ending trophy that I got, and I tweeted at Atlas about this, and they actually liked my stuff and they retweeted my thing, my little
Hey.
tweet. So it's a
Nice.
really neat little thing that happened. But just overall, PS3 library insanely good once it ended. Just absolutely wonderful.
Hmm.
Yeah, those who got it in the first 3 years were really starving. But if you got it afterward, you know,
Yeah, it's pretty much good after the fact. Everything else was half baked.
yeah. Um, yeah. TTP will move on to your number 3 pick.
My number 3, and it would be a crime. It would be a crime if this wasn't in the top 3 for me. And that my number 3 is my Sega Genesis. Um, so I still own it. I still have my original Sega Genesis from 1991. I still have it with my OG copy of Sonic the Hedgehog, and it still works. Same for all my games, controllers, power cord, AV cable, everything just works. Um,
They don't make them like
I
they used to.
We
No, they
get it,
don't.
Tails. We get it, Tails. You're great at preserving things.
Well, it's not so much that. It's just I'm shocked because like the systems like good grief, I haven't plugged them in like 10 years, but you know, I just dust them off and power them up and they just work. I'm like, holy shit. You would
I'm
think
proud
there'd be
that you.
some
I'm proud that you're able to like obtain that quality. Like honestly, I'm happy.
well,
Hmm.
thank you for that. And I mean, I'm glad that whatever it is I'm doing, I'm glad it's working out. I'm not doing anything special with the consoles or anything, so it's not like I've put them through like some special thing to make them last forever. It's just I think that just speaks to the quality of the era, as it was alluded to earlier. But yeah, and I still have my games and couple things here. Let me talk about the games that my picks here. Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 for sure are my picks. Now, I would like to tie and Knuckles on with that as well because I had both games and with the lock-on technology
Yes. Lock on
that
technology. Let's
Hell yeah.
go.
that we got with Sonic and Knuckles and lock on, you know, you could lock on Sonic 2, you could lock on Sonic 3 to well, in Sonic 2's case, you get Knuckles, and then in Sonic 3's case, like, yeah, you get Knuckles, as well as basically the continuation, like the full complete story of Sonic 3 with
Yeah.
Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Like, super cool, and I'm so glad Sega did that. Not to mention, if you popped
Mhm.
on top of like Sonic 1, on top you got the whole no way thing with like Sonic like waving his finger at you, like, no way. But then who knew you can access like trillions of levels of blue spheres. How freaking cool is that?
Right, right. You could do that
And
with nearly any Genesis game too. It gives you a different one.
exactly, yep,
That's so
exactly.
cool.
It's
Lock on to
super.
technology. Like, bless it,
It,
honestly.
seriously, it's so true, and I'm so glad I was there for it and got to experience it as a kid, and just growing up with it. It was fantastic. Another cool thing that the Sega Genesis did for me. So I love music. Music is a very
Mhm.
important facet of my life. I absolutely love music. The Sega Genesis is what got me into video game music. And why is that? Nintendo, the NES and SNES only had a sound chip on it, a chipset that only could produce 5 audio channels. 3 of them were different variations of pulse waves. Another was a triangle wave, and another channel was used for noises. That's it. You were extremely limited for a developer in the NES and SNES days what you could make in terms of a game soundtrack. The Sega Genesis came in and redefined it with the Yamaha YM2612 synthesizer chip and the Texas Instruments SN76489 50% square wave processing chip. I'm not an audio engineer, and I don't want to bore everybody with like the differences between square waves and triangle waves and things like that when it comes
Well,
to
I,
soundtrack.
I'm just thinking here, like, were we supposed to have specs? Oh my god, were we?
I wasn't thinking that whatsoever, but if it's relevant to why you like it, then
No, 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 yeah. Go on, go on. At
But
TTP.
it's just like the combination of these two sound chips. It just it made something beautiful. Like so basically gaming music composers, basically the world became their oyster. Like they could do almost anything with what the Sega Genesis was doing, which is why, like Sonic 3, for example, Michael Jackson and his producer Brad Buxer were able to come in and make the probably one of the most culturally definitive soundtracks for video games of our time with Sonic 3. I mean, who
Mm.
doesn't love like Carnival Night Zone or Hydra City, you know? Seriously. Absolutely definitive soundtrack. And you can thank the Sega Genesis chipset, sound chipset for the innovation. And that is the reason why I loved listening to Sonic the Hedgehog music. And even as a kid, I was just like, I'd love to have this on a CD because I'd listen to this all the time. Now, thanks to
Mhm.
today, now it's a reality. Like in 5 seconds, I can load up like on my media server. I can load up the Sonic 3 and Knuckles soundtrack and jam along to it, which is freaking amazing. Um, so yeah, versus like with the SNES and NES, all you could do was just change pitches and frequencies. That's all you could do.
So
With
what I'm hearing here, TTP, is that Genesis does?
bingo, exactly.
there is a flip side to that though, because you really knew how, or sorry, you really had to know how to work that soundboard, and most developers didn't really do so. So the Genesis didn't produce
Mm.
that great of music for a lot of games.
I
Uh,
agree.
I
Yep.
think Sega knowing the system definitely helped, but there are some good third party examples of that as well. Uh, so uh, just you know. It was just a lot tougher to get good music out of it than it was with say like you mentioned the Super Nintendo, which personally I think produced better music as a whole, but opinions. Uh, so
It
yeah,
comes down to people not using the correct instrument, you know.
Yes.
Um, and I feel like that's what happened with a lot of SNES to Genesis games, because people were just like, "I'm making this for the SNES," and then they go to the Genesis, it's an entirely different tool, and
Mm-hmm.
they're just like, "I'm gonna apply the same thing that I did for this," and that's not how you do it. It's like how people are like, "I could port PS3 games to the Wii," and like that's not how you do it.
yeah,
They are different things.
Exactly. Yep. Yep, and I mean, at least Sega, like, the proprietary company, with the Genesis, like, at least they knew what they were doing, like, with the games, and that is why,
Yeah,
like, with Sonic, for example, that's why the Sonic soundtracks in those games are just, it's legendary. Another video game that I can think of that actually had a really good soundtrack, and that was, I thought that took real advantage of the Sega Genesis sound chip was Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. I think
mm.
that video game too really highlights the capabilities of the Genesis sound chips, which is great. But yes, I do agree with you. I on a whole, SNES games probably had better music overall, and I would agree with that. And that's just because more developers like we're using the right instruments. And then yeah, you talked about porting SNES games over to Genesis, and well, it's different sound chips, so you're going to get different results, and it's not probably going to sound as good or as clean versus if you would have just done the music from scratch on
Shit.
the Genesis sound chips. So yeah, I actually there is a valid point there. I agree.
yeah,
I think one little thing to note about the Genesis as well is that because it's one of the older ones, it actually has a few historical things that it did. And while I do think lock-on technology is probably our first look into like what DLC is and expansion and whatnot for console specifically, it's pretty cool that they had the first JRPG with a female protag, Fantasy Star.
Yes.
Uh, and just I want to express that a lot of these games that TTP is talking about, they are actually redone with the Sega Ages collection, and Sega Ages does a tremendous job at replicating a lot of the stuff that it needed to do to make these games better. And Fantasy Star has only improved drastically and made me love it entirely in the sense that like, oh wow, I definitely feel like if I had this as a kid, when I was playing the Genesis, I would love it. You know?
Mm-hmm.
always good to check out some stuff that you missed out on uh, if you didn't get the chance before, and if it's readily available. Uh, that's a good thing about re-releases and stuff in general, is that you know it can it can open up your eyes to something that you might have not realized how good it was if you dismissed it for being old or whatnot. That'll be relevant for my number two pick. Uh, as far as my own number three is the Xbox 360. Uh,
Ah,
that for as not great as its backwards compatibility was, it was still a really, really solid console. Uh, it does kind of represent the beginning of how I kind of fell behind in terms of like keeping up with modern video games. Uh,
mm,
Although that was kind of already a thing by the end of the sixth gen. But the Xbox 360, I feel like from the original days to when they switched over to the S and whatnot, it had a really good theme. I feel uh, uh, more so in the earlier days of the system than later, but and I was always a bit envious that my brother had one. Uh, was experiencing like new titles and whatnot. Um, but after years of wanting one, I was finally able to get one for my 18th birthday. Uh, And I will forever be thankful to my mom who took out a fucking loan so that I could uh, go to the store and pick one up. Uh, I was originally meaning to get like the $300 system. I think it had 250 gigabytes, and it would have come with a copy of Halo Reach. Uh, but then I would have had no money for anything else. So uh, like I have mixed feelings on it because like I love the system, right? And the memories that I made on it, but 4 gigabytes is not a whole lot. But I did pick up the cheaper system. Uh,
Yeah.
and with that, I was able to get a copy of Sonic Generations, which is the exact reason why I got the cheaper console. Uh,
Hmm.
and I did get the headset and the keyboard accessories, but I did not use
Oh
them
my,
very much. My
which
Xbox,
keyboard accessory?
Yeah,
the
which one?
Microsoft one where like you plug it in the bottom of the controller.
Oh, yep. Okay.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of, the cringy Nene one.
Yeah, I I don't know what I was doing wrong too because I couldn't fit it in the fucking thing. So I never used it. I gave it to my brother. He was able to use it. And then my Xbox Live Gold only lasted a month. Uh, and I never re-upped on it. So eventually my brother commandeered the headset too because his broke. So uh, the accessories didn't last me very long. But
Mm.
the system in and of itself, that was basically all I had for a good little while as well because that's like uh, I did like a little renovation, moved my TV into my room, so that meant packing up all my old systems, which have not been played nearly as much since. So I'm sorry to my GameCube, my Dreamcast, and my Super Nintendo for that one. But the 360, it did provide me some good memories. What with it being like basically my only choice. Uh, Sonic Generations, I mentioned, I got that for my birthday that year, and to be playing a Sonic game that was still relatively new at the time, it was only half a year old uh, when I first picked it up. Like it was awesome to be able to experience that and see like some of the stuff that they were doing. With that, and it's just like a really solid game overall. One of the just purely as a game, one of the best Sonic titles ever made. Uh, and even playing on a big old CRT and in composite, so the quality wasn't all that great, but I could still see like some of the cool
Oh,
stuff that they were doing with graphically and whatnot. It was just a big old love letter to the franchise. Uh, and then interestingly, uh, I did have a copy of Unleashed before I got my system,
Hmm.
but that's like kind of a whole nother story. But I did eventually get my copy of Unleashed back, and holy shit, uh, you know, I'll be mentioning Star Fox Adventures a little later and how that really tied my family together. But I mentioned in my Why I Like Sonic video that like I got some of the same feelings playing Sonic Unleashed, except it was me playing this time. This was my adventure, and I was kind of experiencing it by myself. But like, man, I have never, or well, I have only rarely ever felt so immersed playing a video game as I did with Sonic Unleashed. Man, it was amazing, and just the feelings that I got beating both of those games. Uh, Fucking incredible. So I got to the 360 pretty late, but
so
those yeah.
so you could say that you were like Sonic, right? Like you felt like you were Sonic.
I don't quite know about that, but it just felt good to be experiencing these games after so long, and then with the Xbox Live Arcade, my honorable mentions are basically like most of the Sonic titles that were available there. So I got like the backbone port of Sonic 1, 2, and 3. The CD remake, actually. That was the first classic Sonic that I ever beat.
Hmm.
And then I also like I had already beaten Adventure One by that time, but I ran through it on the 360, and that's that's where I learned to appreciate Big the Cat as a character because I learned how to properly play his levels
Oh,
because they didn't.
nice.
Yeah, they like the 360 version of Adventure did this weird thing, and this would apply for like the base Steam version and the PS3 version as well, where like. Uh, as opposed to the Dreamcast and GameCube versions where like you can just wait around for Froggy to bite, I had no fucking clue that it's like you're encouraged to pull the thumbstick down when he's nibbling on the lure. Uh, and he will never fully bite unless if you do that on the 360 version. Uh,
Oh.
so I did that and I was like, oh shit, these levels were actually really easy. uh, so
Wow.
so I was like, hey, this is not as bad as people say, and I turned around on Big as a character through that, and I liked Big before it was a meme. Uh, so yeah, plenty of plenty of special memories with the Xbox 360, and as the first console I ever got after becoming an adult, it means a lot.
So, I definitely would like to say that a very interesting thing when it comes to game sharing for the Xbox is it has a very weird DRM where effectively the first download that you do, that's available to everybody on the console, regardless of their standing of who owns it and whatnot.
Hmm.
So it's really cool in that regard. But once you move to a different console, you lose that particular copy, and you only have the DRM has to be online. And you can still play with other people, or rather, another person plays your game, but you just have to be online as well. It's fairly interesting and neat concept that happens with a lot of game sharing for Xbox 360 specifically. But it did have similar things that the PS3 had for game sharing.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, looks like we're gonna move on to our number two picks. TTP, lead this one off.
Alrighty. I think my number two pick here, Skull. Thank you for talking about the 360. Because guess what?
Oh,
That's my number two.
whoa!
Hey.
Oh! So
um.
you're all against me, is what I'm hearing.
um. Now here's the thing. Yes, we can. If you overlook the backwards compatibility issues or lack thereof with the 360, although in my opinion, I think the Xbox One was an absolute joke. Somebody brought up the UI with like the OG Xbox and the 360. I think that was you, Skull. You talked about how the user interface was really slick on the 360. I absolutely 100% agree with you. The like comparing the 360 to my Xbox One is a joke. I hate the Xbox One user interface.
Oh, it's so bad. It's so
It's
insanely bad.
garbage. It is
And
garbage.
you know what's funny to me is that the 360 is like that now. Specifically
Mm-hmm.
now. The latest UI for the 360 is awful, but everything before it, I mean literally every UI before it, is fine.
Yes.
And like I used to remember when the UI of the 360 was specifically just pages. That's when I used to
Yes.
have one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude,
Yes.
Blades was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I liked it. It
Blade.
was slick.
Yes.
It I'm glad you brought that up too because like what I meant with like themes was just like how they aesthetically presented the console, but I do think mentioning the UI is a big point here because again like Blades was cool. The one that I don't know what they like called it, but when I got my system, like it worked. I could tell what the pages were and stuff. Uh,
Yeah.
but I guess it's bad now? Question mark.
Uh, yeah, sadly that is the case. It has to do with them being like, we could advertise here now. and they
Yes.
started advertising. That's
Yes.
literally the problem.
Yep.
But I'm a little sad because like I wouldn't say Xbox has really good themes, more so that you just have a neat thing that you could customize with pictures. PS3, on the other hand, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, had really good themes. It actually changed the icons on top to fit the theme, which
It
they don't do
did.
anymore. It makes me
Yeah.
sad.
That is sad. No, I mean, with my three, so okay, like we're talking about like, you know, user themes and stuff like that. I don't remember what game it was, but as soon as I saw that there was a like a Tails onesie in like the Avatar shop on the
Probably
360.
Doritos Dash, I think, or like the game show specifically. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there was a really good theme that you could get, and I was able to get it. So my avatar right now on my 360 is wearing a Tails onesie and flying around a RC tornado. It's great. Um, and oh my god, just I loved it so much. And my theme, my 360 theme is actually '06. I actually have a Sonic 06 theme for for my 360 UI, and I freaking love it. It's so cool. So as I swipe through the blades, at least I used to, when I would swipe through the blades, like the first one would be Sonic, then I'd see Shadow, then I'd see Silver, like on each page or blade. It was freaking amazing. And yeah, I wish Xbox didn't like, you know, turn the UI into a freaking ad platform, because that's what it is now. And well, that pisses me off, but yeah, it sucks. But and not only that, it also blocks your themes now too. So like you won't,
Yeah.
like I can only see Silver for like a split second before then it just gets before Silver gets covered up with like ads and shit. Like
Gross.
it's yeah, it is. It's gross. I hate it. So for any of you out there that actually haven't updated your Xbox 360 in a while, please don't. You'll be doing yourself a favor if you stay on whatever version you're on. If you are on the latest update UI interface, I am so sorry, and sadly I am one of those people, because
Yeah.
I updated without realizing that it was going to change everything, and well, there it is. So nothing I can do about it now. But yeah, and you know, you brought up Xbox Live too, Skull, and interesting you bring that up. I while you were talking about your gold membership and stuff, I actually just realized this year marks my 20th anniversary of being subscribed on Xbox Live.
Oh dear.
Wow.
And even though I don't use it much today, I still have it. I still pay for gold, and so I had it on my OG Xbox, and then when I got my 360, I transitioned the account over to the 360. So I actually still have the same Xbox Live account that I had 20 years ago. Same name, same everything.
Let me ask, did you first get the subscription in anticipation of Halo 2?
Yes.
So as soon as you found out it was going to be online multiplayer, you were like, all right, I'm paying
That
the
was it.
$60.
Yep, that was it. So here I am, a poor college student, you know, like a couple days before Halo 2 launched, because I pre-ordered Halo 2, so I was in the midnight line at GameStop for Halo 2, the Halo 2 midnight release party, and I'm like, okay, yeah, screw it. This is $60 I need for food. Well, I guess I won't eat for a while.
Oh my.
Cup of noodles, ramen.
Yeah, it was yeah. Like if I wanted food in my dorm, yeah, it was pretty much just like yeah, ramen noodles, and that was
the tried and true college student diet of ramen noodles and cereal.
and cereal. Yep, or the little cups of mac and cheese that you could heat up real quick.
Easy Mac, let's go.
Yep, Easy Mac. Yep, those. And oh my god, but bringing back memories here. But oh damn, yeah, those. So yeah, I'm glad you brought up Xbox Live too, because that was the other experience with the Xbox as well, with the 360. And again, I logged countless hours playing Halo, like Halo 2 on Xbox Live, as well as like, oh gosh, I had like poker, like a Xbox Live poker game, which I really love to play. And that was back in my poker days when I would play poker, no limit Texas Hold'em for cash, and that was those were fun days. Those were really fun days.
So speaking of that specifically, when you started mentioning more about Xbox Live, I did show you that Doritos Crash Course, which is fairly interesting. Not really part of it, just one little avatar things, but that was part of the course of various avatar games they released. One of which being a game you can't play anymore called One vs. 100, where
Oh,
the Xbox Live specifically had it to where you would face off against a bunch of other people, with one person taking the center hold, and you would compete to get prizes. A lot of the times they would actually go off to give you things like Banjo Kazooie or like Microsoft store like store points and things like that. It was really neat. You could actually earn these prizes. It was a
nice.
possibility, and it's no longer there anymore. But gosh, it was really cool because you had to tune in a very specific time, and they had little achievements for it and everything. It was really cool,
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
right?
I remember one of my brothers telling me about how cool One versus 100 on 360 was, and then of course there was also the very fondly remembered goat Uno. Uh,
Yeah,
a lot of people liked that one. I unfortunately was never able to experience it before they. I guess they delisted it at some point.
yeah, I was delisted, but
Skulls, you have Uno. If you have an Xbox, you have Uno.
Well, TTP actually uh, like so Xbox Live was very special to you. It seems.
yep.
Does that play into your favorite game picks for the system?
So basically, not really, but rather the games that I've selected here for my faves on the 360 are the games that really drew me back into the franchise. As some of you know, I missed out on the Dreamcast era, and that's because I was just starting high school, and I was all into the N64 at that time. So I regret I did not. One of my friends worked at GameStop at that time, and he actually said he would hold on to a Dreamcast for me on launch day. And I never took him up on that offer, and I still kind of kick myself that I missed out on it. But so I missed out on some of the Sonic games at that time. Now I knew Sonic was still a big thing,
Hmm.
but um the 360 brought me back into the fold, into the Sonic fandom, and that was with '06. And
Let's go.
I love you know what? I'm not going to apologize for it. I love Sonic '06. I really do.
Oh, you're
I am
oh,
I,
so valid.
I am not going to apologize for it. Silver is my second favorite character in the Sonic franchise. And I oh my god, I loved the game. I loved the game. I still love the game.
Mm.
Thank God for Project '06. Project '06 is
Oh,
absolutely amazing, and
godsend.
I will allude to that later. But yes, '06 is actually is super amazing. And then we got the epicness of Unleashed. And Unleashed is
Oh
absolutely
yeah.
amazing. It is a goat. It is an absolute goat of a game. And not only that, we got a freaking amazing soundtrack, which to this day, in terms of Sonic music, is still one of the best soundtracks from Sonic Team to get produced, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
Um, Frontiers is right up there now too. I really love Frontiers soundtrack, but yeah.
And
But
speaking of Unleashed, like graphically speaking, you mentioned Frontiers as well. It took a while for any Sonic game to match Unleashed in graphical fidelity. Uh,
yes,
and my God, that game is pretty. It made the system chug, unfortunately, but it was
yeah,
worth it.
yep. And a real quick honorable mention, you brought up
Hmm.
Generations, and I have to give a plug for Generations because one of the cool things that for the 360 version of Generations is it supported 3D TVs. I just happen to own a 3D TV. So I was able to put on my TV's like 3D glasses and play Sonic Generations in 3D mode on the TV, and holy crap, what a trip that
Oh man.
was. Um, oh my god. Yeah, it was a gimmick at the end of the day. Like 3D TVs are just nothing anymore. But like back in that time, like 3D TV, it was something.
Yeah,
It was
3D
something.
was pretty huge at the time. Uh,
Yep.
Hmm.
just,
I
uh,
wonder
So
why.
uh, Avatar.
Avatar, yeah, yeah,
That's
Avatar was
actually sad if
big.
it's Avatar.
Yeah, that just kind of kickstarted it, and then like every
It
movie
did.
had to be 3D for like the next like 7 years after. uh,
But
Mhm.
it's cool because like now some of the old school like Disney animated movies came out 3D, like The Lion King. So like I have like The Lion King animated 3D on Blu-ray and all, and it looks amazing in 3D. But yeah, like the Disney movies are great 3D, but the other stuff isn't, in my opinion. Like Avatar's cool and all that, but again, it was just a phase. It was just a gimmick in a short run, but in the end, 4K won out over 3D. So
oh yeah. Just to quickly mention some points I actually forgot about Generations and Unleashed. Like uh, just a couple other good memories and notes and stuff where like Generations had that Sega Genesis in it, and that's the way I beat Sonic 1 for the first time. Was playing it through Generations. Uh, so it was nice and cool to include the original game like that. And then I'm very surprised that I didn't mention my experience with Sonic Unleashed made it my favorite Sonic game to this day. Uh, and it was my favorite game overall for a while. But that's since changed. But it's still deep in my heart, my favorite Sonic the Hedgehog game. Uh,
nice.
Dork.
so yeah. Is anything else about the 360 you'd like to mention?
Not really. I feel like I went on long enough. It was, I mean, this is great. Thank you, Skull, for bringing up Xbox Live too and making me think, because I'm like, wow, holy shit, yeah, because I signed up in '04 um for Live. So,
And
oh my god.
that is pretty nuts. Uh, so Lost. Over to you now. What is your number two pick?
Hold on, I got a prop for it.
Oh,
It's just taking a while. Do a thing, please. Oh, I don't need to update you now, please. But you could hear that, right?
yes.
Yeah. So my pick is the 3DS for my second
Oh,
one. 100%. I love the 3DS. I
Nice.
actually saved up for the 3DS to get it at launch. And then after the whole entire ambassador program and whatnot happened, Smash came out for it, and I got the Smash version of that, and I own that version in particular. And the 3DS is such an amazing, funky console. I love it to death. There's so many neat little niche things to it that I can't express enough. Just make me happy, and I wish they come back. One of which, in particular, being the activity log. I'm really sad there's not a lot of places that have activity log for your consoles. It's so neat to see. Like, for instance, on Super Street Fighter 4 3D edition, I have 139 hours on it and 40 minutes. That's insane. I played it 176 times. My average play time is 47 minutes. I started playing it March 27th, and I last played it let's see here. May 2nd, 2013. So from 2011 to 2013 was when I was crunching them hours.
Hmm.
It's really neat, right, to see all this stuff. But one thing I want to talk in particular would be this one. I'm going to pull out the statistics for this. Kid Icarus Uprising playtime 113 hours and 35 minutes. Times played 120. Average playtime 56 minutes. That's kind of insane. And the thing that I have to talk most about Kid Icarus Uprising in particular is just it pretty much used everything you wanted to use from the 3DS. It had an amazing Street Pass option where you could have customizable weapons that you personally made and fused together to give it a nice little vibe of helping each other out by showing which weapons you want to like give to somebody else. And I eventually led the charge along with a GameStop employee that I knew to just make the strongest weapon possible that had no like statistics on it, which is really hard to do, but it's basically just really good fusion material to make weapons stronger for other people. So you had that neat little feature of Street Pass, just like being able to help each other out. And then it actually had it online uh, little competitive scene and whatnot. It was a really neat scene. It was a really good competitive thing. And I'm really sad to see that it didn't get much attention because it generally was super fun. Being able to like bring along weapons and fight against other people and whatnot. And it's Kid Icarus Uprising. I cannot express enough. Literally one of my favorite games of all time. The way the story is structured, the way everything is done, and how everything is set up is just absolutely wonderful. The fourth wall does not exist in that game whatsoever, and they have neat little collectibles that you could do and share. Use the AR technology to like scan cards that you have. I even still have some Kid Icarus Uprising cards that I got from Nintendo events. And if you lived in Europe, you actually got to buy those packs individually, which is really cool. Kind of wish we had it over here. Right? And just like I cannot express how much I love Kid Icarus Uprising without expressing the fact I want it remade so people could play it, because playing Kid Icarus Uprising was a pain. You had to have effectively what is called a claw hand to use it. It came with its own little standee to use it with, where you would have the stylus and move it around while you're holding your finger and pressing like the shoulder button and moving with the analog stick at the same time. And it just did not feel good whatsoever after, I want to say 20 minutes. It really sucked, but it was so worth it. That game was so good. And the way that everything was designed was so lovely, and even incorporated 3D really well with a lot of its on-track railings as you went along and whatnot. If I had to express how Kid Icarus Uprising's gameplay was, think of it as like Star Fox into Metroid Prime. That's effectively what hit. Every time you have an on-rail section, and then you would have the section where you go off exploring the stage itself, and it felt more like Metroid Prime in that regard, which is kind of a cool thing because that's what it was. Like Metroid was its creator, the Metroid person that created Metroid created Kid Icarus Uprising, or rather, just Kid Icarus.
Mm-hmm.
But Street Pass was just really something else, and I cannot express enough just how much it highlighted everything on top of the whole entire Spot Pass thing. If you ever bought a 3DS to a con, you know how much it lights up and how you have to keep checking every time because you can only take like 10 people. It's kind of insane.
Funny you bring that up, Lost.
Yeah,
So I too am a 3DS owner, and
let's go.
I'm looking at it there on my shelf. Um, my I need to fire it up. I haven't fired it up in like 3 years.
Yeah.
But in 2016, or was it seven? No, it was 16. 2016, I was in Florida on vacation, and I had it on like the hibernation mode, or it would still have some network connectivity, and I could wander around. And Spot Pass would work and all that, and it was so great. Um, Flying home, we had a connecting flight that we had to catch in Newark, New Jersey. I'm literally walking around the airport, and my thing is just going off the rails. Just walking through an airport, I'm like, holy cow, what is going on here? Looking, and next thing you know, I've got like people from Japan, or like I'm trying to talk to them, but I can't read kanji, so I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, like hi, like and all that. And it was so great. I get out of the airport, and it was like I made like 140 something connections. I'm like, shit, like you would have thought that I just walked out of like Comic-Con or something like that. Like,
Huh.
oh,
Yeah.
like with the amount of connection. And I'm like, I just walked through a freaking airport from one terminal to another. What the hell? This is that was so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it gets like that. It's really, really neat.
Mm-hmm.
And one other thing that I do want to say about the feature specifically, uh the themes. Why doesn't the Switch have themes the way the 3DS has themes?
Yeah,
I've never seen the most customizable stuff here. Like the 3DS, I kid you not, is the most customizable console.
it is. Mm-hmm.
Um, the added a little feature where you could get a bunch of like little stickers and whatnot, put them on folders that you make. The folders change depend on the various themes that you have. You have different sounds coming out of different themes. You were given some free themes on top of the fact that like it has a little ongoing like screen of its own to show on the top if it's not showing like a game in particular. It's just kind of insane how much effort and stuff they put into it. And I'm a little sad that some of the features aren't like really around anymore. Like I'm trying to like remember, like Swap Doodle used to be called something else, where like
Oh yeah.
you could send things to your friends via Spot Pass, and it worked kind of like PictoChat. But then there was some trouble coming in with adults and kids interacting with each other in Japan, and that's why they stopped doing it.
Oh,
Um,
I didn't know that.
yeah, it was one of them situations that like I understand why they did it, but it sucks still.
Right.
Um, Generally surprised. I honestly forgot about this. It had Netflix on there. The 3DS had Netflix,
That's right. It
and it
did.
had YouTube. I'm looking at all these old ass things that I have here. It's just really, really neat.
I
And
feel
then
like it had Hulu too.
I might have. I just probably didn't download it.
Gotcha.
I know the Switch has Hulu in particular, but it also had these little fun little apps that you could download called like photos of Mario, or had the pre-installed AR games attached to it. You had Face Raiders, and you had various little videos that you could download from it on top of like Pokemon Bank, the 3D Pokédex, um, and a bunch of other really, really cool, just mysteriously apps. And you had the virtual console on it too. And like a bunch of like those 3DS games that was like 3DSware, and you had DSiWare on top of that. And then they also released free games on there that like worked as like free to start games where like you would have to pay a certain amount or had to wait absurdly long time for it. And it was kind of their start of like doing that stuff. Like Pokemon Shuffle got its start here specifically. Um, and it was just really cool in that regard. Like some of the Game Gear games that I played are from and on the 3DS. Like Shining Force, I played on the 3DS, and that was really freaking neato. But if I were to catalog and say which one is the defining 3DS game out there, no doubt in my mind is it Bravely Default. I cannot express how amazing it is to play Bravely Default when it was out. Um, Specifically February 7th, 2014, all the way um, all the way until people beat it, which was pretty much like at the end of that year, effectively. You just had a lot of things that were going on with Bravely Default in particular, and it used the Street Pass option. It uses bot pass to like get your friends codes and whatnot, and like you could send people your ultimate attacks through the Bravely Default mode. On top of the fact that it had just this amazing ending where at the end of the whole entire thing, effectively all the stuff pays off in terms of your streak passing. And it's really, really cool that they incorporated such a gimmicky thing into its finale in a way that you wouldn't think about. And I cannot express enough just how much playing through that game with individual people and we're helping each other play through it um, was just an astonishingly amazing time that I don't think could be replicated in any given era. It's like talking about the Pokemon mobile game, Pokemon Go, and its summer that it had, you know? You're
Yes.
just not going to replicate it. There's not a
No.
possibility. But for those out there that experienced it and knew it, it's a magical time that you know won't be forever. And
Exactly.
for all that said, the 3DS even had the DS library attached to it, which is insane to me. It is absolutely insane just how much the library for the 3DS has that I can't not be like it's like not including it in this list. To me, the 3DS is one of the best things that Nintendo has ever made. And it's very funny in that regard because I do generally think that nowadays, probably not worth going back to comparatively. But you had to be there.
Yeah, you did. You did. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, uh, it's a lot of interesting stuff there, and I can't quite relate because I never had a 3DS, but I will say,
Mm.
through emulation, Josh, that hat guy, did a playthrough of Miitopia with Rabbit and I, and
Nice.
I thought like that was a really fun game, being able to we like downloaded a bunch of Mii's from places to use them as the
Not
characters,
me.
and then uh well, you weren't on that Me website, though
Dang. You could have asked me. I would have brought it out. I would have brought it out. I could share my Mii's with you.
uh but it was cool to get us in the party and our pal Georgia, and go through and talk to like King Snoop Dogg and Princess Betty White and all that. uh I forget all the characters, but you know it was cool, to experience that, and a fun way to incorporate like the system zone sort of stuff into a video game. Uh, I feel, and then of course, like right about the time we were done with it is when they announced the remake for Switch, so we felt like idiots. Uh,
Right?
so, so fun stuff in that regard. Uh, but yeah, it was cool to hear about your experiences with the 3DS. Uh,
It literally is one of those things that is elevated by people having it, and now that people don't have it anymore, not nearly as good as it once was.
Hmm.
yeah. Uh,
Exactly.
so I guess that means it's my turn to move on to the number two pick. For
Oh
me,
no!
it's the Super Nintendo. Uh, Stop me if you've heard this before, but on Christmas Day in 2001, I received a
What?
Super Nintendo with the rest of my family. It was a gift from one of my mom's friends. Uh,
Damn! Your mom friend's
Nice.
rich or something? What the heck?
It was very generous of that friend to do. So we got the system in the box as well. Unfortunately, we've lost the box, which was, I loved looking at the thing. Uh,
Yeah, boxes
uh,
are really cool.
it had it was the Mario All Stars themed one, because that was one of the games that. Oh wait, no, because that was the original Super Mario All Stars, and what we got was All Stars plus World. So
Oh my god, just like my friend.
uh,
You literally are just like my friend, Skippy-san.
it was a bit different in that respect, but it was cool to look at that stuff. But unfortunately, we did lose the box. But we were sent a bunch of games with it. Super Mario All Stars, chiefly among them. That's one of my honorable mentions here for this system. Uh, uh, and I'll get more into it with Super Mario World, but those games on that cart are almost solely responsible. Uh, in fact, I think I might just say solely responsible for getting me into gaming as a whole. Uh, uh, it was really cool to just have all those Mario games in one convenient package, and whatnot. So that was cool. We were also given the Donkey Kong Country trilogy, which I'll mention more later. Space Invaders, Pac-Man
Sweet.
2, uh, and there's probably at least one more, but I'm forgetting at the moment. But the Super Nintendo started my gamerhood. Uh, you know, back at 7 years old, and that's kind of what I was alluding to as well. 2001 was pretty late for someone to be receiving the Super Nintendo as their first ever console. Uh, but you know.
Honest, I'm a little bit old, so I didn't know that. I'm like, no, that has to be the right age, right?
uh, uh, you know, uh, so all that stuff was old by then, but it's great that we were able to look at it and not dismiss it and whatnot, and because we got some good ass games on it, and it's good to appreciate the old stuff, the old stuff that stands the test of time. Uh, and my God, as far as like 2D gaming and stuff is concerned, I feel like the fourth generation was kind of like the apex of that. Uh, if the NES and the Master System and to an extent the Atari 7800 were like the testing grounds for how to do this new style of video games after moving on from more arcadey type titles. Uh, and they fucking perfected how to do that particular style of video game uh, in the fourth gen. We got some great titles. Uh, I do want to mention in my honorable mentions, like I said, Super Mario All Stars, Donkey Kong Country 1 and 3 are in there as well. They're part of a solid trilogy, in my personal opinion. Uh, Almost had this as like one of my main mentions here, but Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island. Oh my God, what a fantastic game that one is. Uh, Lots of
Honestly, I don't. It's one of those games that I feel is not praised enough.
it is legit one of the best 2D platformers I think is ever been made.
I,
Uh,
I think just aesthetically, it's one of the most pleasing things to look at.
oh yeah, it's got a particularly unique, interesting visual style that even Nintendo themselves haven't fully been able to replicate. Uh,
Hmm.
Uh, but man, they hit the right notes with that one. And I will say, best ending in any video game, even if Yoshi's New Island kind of fucked it. But uh, it's definitely up there for that superlative, or however you pronounce that word. But my main mentions here is gonna be, first up is Donkey Kong Country 2. I feel like that's the best one of the original trilogy.
Let's go, Sticker Brush Symphony. Woo, woo,
Excellent.
woo,
Yeah,
woo.
exactly. Like one was great, but like two, just fucking bumped it up a particular notch. And it's tough. It's a pretty goddamn tough game, but Rare just had a special group of people working there. They knew how to make a game that was tough, but also fair for the most part. and I feel like DKC2 hits all those right notes. Along with its very unique visual style, and like the music as well, which we were getting on an earlier point with how music on these consoles sounded, and like those who knew how to work the Genesis's soundboard made some really good stuff, but like if you knew how to work the Super Nintendo's soundboard, like some of those instruments in the Donkey Kong Country soundtrack sound real. Like that's how impressive that this stuff could get. And they didn't use enhancement chips for any of those games either, uh, so doubly impressive in that respect. But DKC2 is it'll bust you up, but you'll feel good when you finally beat it. Um, and then my other pick, uh, predictably, it's my favorite game of all time, Super Mario World. I feel like it's the best 2D platformer ever made. The controls are just 100% perfect. Mario, doesn't feel too loose, doesn't feel too tight. Uh, you know, uh, Super Mario Bros. 3, those controls felt like a dream. And I've used this line before, but I'll say it again. Super Mario World's controls feel like a dream's dream. Like they're that good. Uh, you know take that along with level design and whatnot. Sure, like it's much easier than Super Mario 3, but I feel like they did what they needed to do exactly with what they were going for with that one, in terms of just again like what they wanted to do. It doesn't matter to me that that it's an easier game, or that the boss fights aren't quite as spectacular, unless if you're fighting Bowser. Um, you know, uh, they do throw some stuff at you still. If you want to 100% it. So it's just my God, just an excellently built game with a beautiful visual style. And I'll go on about the music again. Most of the songs in that game are just variations on the same tune, but Koji Kondo is such a fucking master
Oh my
that
God, yes.
that
Mm.
that each of those songs, even though it's the same melody, sound like they're different songs entirely. Like I don't know of any other composer who can do that. That is some impressive shit. Uh, so uh,
So one thing I do want to like make reference to of Ocarina of Time specifically, because Koji Kondo made that soundtrack as well.
Yes.
Um, I would definitely say that the soundtrack for Ocarina of Time is the biggest reason why it's so remembered. And in that regard, I definitely feel like he kind of just makes bangers all around. Like he's doing that with Super Mario World. He does that with so many of the other ones. It's kind of insane.
he's a legend for a reason, and
Yeah,
it's just
Mhm.
one of the many reasons why I love Super Mario World. I could go on forever about it. I have gone on forever about it. But just from trying to watch my brother originally go through it when we were kids, and it took me a long ass while to actually get from that Christmas morning to actually beating it. Almost 14 years between those two dates. Uh, but from watching my brother do it and try to make his way through the game, getting lost in the Forest of Illusion and whatnot, all the way to knowing how to play the game pretty competently myself, and finally getting that last hit on Bowser in the company of Rabbit and Josh over a Skype call. And plenty of good memories made with it since. It just, oh my God, that game just fills me with love. Uh, you know,
I do.
Yep.
I
No,
do find. Oh, go ahead.
no. Go ahead, Lost.
I do find it kind of funny that Skull's pretty much just like Super Mario World, because both Super Mario World and Super Mario World 2 are his favorites of the SNES. And it makes me wonder, how do you feel about 3D World? I'll definitely need to see like you stream that at some point or something.
3D World looks interesting, and I've thought that since I first saw the original trailer for it, like when it was coming out on Wii U. I have not gotten the opportunity to play it, but I
It just sounds
do.
It sounds to me if you put world in the title, Skulls is like this is a banger.
Uh, I mean, it doesn't look, it doesn't look like the greatest Mario game or anything, 3D World, but I am very interested in playing it. I do appreciate that they kind of did like Mario in 3D, but the structure is like a 2D Mario game where there's like a point A, point B worlds and uh, all that sort of stuff. But just that's my pick though for the Super Nintendo, man. Is just that, and along with plenty of other games. Again, it was my gateway into gaming, uh, and into Mario, into Donkey Kong. And it just
Hmm.
you know uh,
TTV, what'd you have to say?
Like, it's funny you bring this up, Skull, and you and Rouge are gonna have to have a little chat because my girlfriend Rouge, I was the Sonic person.
Well,
Rouge did not have Sonic, and that's just because she didn't have the Sega consoles. Um, and growing up, but she had a SNES. And actually, I'm looking at it right now. She actually rescued it from her parents' house, and along with all of her games and AV cables, and it still works. And she's got Super Mario World and all that. In fact, I posted a picture on my Discord server of Rouge and I having a lazy Saturday a few weeks back.
oh, that's
And
cool.
what are we doing? Like, we're playing Super Mario World together.
hell yeah.
Like, because it was just such a good Saturday. And Rouge and I just looked at each other and like, we need a lazy Saturday. Like, we just need to hang out and do something. What do you want to do? Do you want to play a video game? Yeah, let's play a video game. All right. Super Mario World it is. And like that ended up being our Saturday. That and Donkey Kong Country 2. Um
Hell
we
yeah.
Hmm.
played that too. So like yeah, those were those were our that was how we spent our Saturday afternoon and early evening. And I'm glad I have Rouge like on the from the perspective of like she is the one that's introducing me to the more of the Mario stuff because that's what she grew up with. She had the Mario stuff, but in turn, I'm introducing her to Sonic, which is great, and so we're both benefiting from it, and it's fantastic. So, and I'm really enjoying just playing these old school Mario games. With her. So, and it's because of that, Skull, I actually understand now why you love like, Donkey Kong, the Donkey Kong franchise, uh and um and Super Mario World and Yoshi's Island and all that. Like Rouge loves Yoshi's Island, just oh my gosh. And like it's so much fun, and it's just fun like having a relaxing Saturday to just mess around and play old school games together. Because like Rouge will just pick up a controller, a SNES controller, and even like so. I have SNES emulators, but I actually bought um retro controllers with USB connections. So I have SNES
Hmm.
controllers with USB port connections. So I can interface them with my emulator. So if I'm playing on the SNES emulator, I just plug in my USB SNES controller. And same for N64 and my and NES and Genesis and all of it. Like, and she's just like, she picks up one of those controls and she's like, "I'm 9 again," and just it's so good. And
So, so you were able to ask the question if in a Sonic fanboy and a Nintendo girl could really be together.
there you go. Exactly.
Oh
Yep.
man. Uh, uh, Good of you to bring up that point about those controllers as well, because like uh with with most games, I don't think like the feel of the controller really matters. Like, I experienced the Sonic Adventure games, for instance, on the GameCube for the first time, but I have no problem playing them with an Xbox or a PlayStation controller. But like with the Super Nintendo specifically, I have to have that feel, and that's the only console I can really think of. Maybe with the N64, like I have a very specific controller on my Amazon wish list that I feel like I'd only be able to play, N64 that particular way. But the Super Nintendo is like uh, exactly like that. Like I have to have that feel, or else it's just wrong, you know?
So
Ah,
it is a bit funny because the SNES actually does have two official controllers. It has the one with color, and has the one without color. The one that's just pink and
oh.
purple, and the one that has the colors for every single one of the buttons. And the ones with the more buttons has it to where they're more solid, while the pink and purple one have a little cut into them. So like your thumb could like kind of rest in it and whatnot. But they're different controllers.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Uh, are you talking just about the regional differences, or are you talking about like the ASCII
No,
controller that has like the
those
turbo
control
switches?
no, those controllers are different. It's an official controller. And it was released later in life on the SNES.
Well, yeah. Uh,
It's not one of those Mad Cats controllers I'm talking about. It's an official controller.
well, I know. I was just being sure about
Yeah.
like which one you were mentioning, but yeah, just to end my little ramble, gateway into gaming, loads of good memories, and you know, I will always appreciate the Super Nintendo for that.
Well,
Uh,
there's a few things that I think you forgot, Skulls, that I do think need mention for the Super Nintendo.
what's that?
The Super Game Boy,
Uh,
uh, which
You know,
which
I'll say I will kick myself in the butt for not picking one up when I got the chance.
mm,
Much like TTP of the Dreamcast. Uh,
Yeah.
saw one, plenty enough times at a local game store when I was in my late teens, and I think it was like $20. And I always thought about picking it up, but never did. And I'm sure if I tried finding one now, it would be way more expensive than $20. Uh, so
yeah, it is.
uh,
I go to a video game store every now and again. It's not that expensive, but you're looking at like a $30 to $40 purchase.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
yeah,
But I think something that needs to be mentioned about the Super Game Boy, in particular, is that it actually had unique borders. On top of the fact that it did change the Game Boy settings, you could actually change it to have different colors and whatnot. So Link's Awakening, the old version, you actually change its hues to a bunch of different colors, which is really cool. And you could save it too. So there's a lot of little neat little features that the Super Game Boy had
yeah,
that made it work really nice. And I feel like that was probably the best version we've gotten of handheld into console, despite the fact that we also had a Game Boy Advance version for the GameCube.
yeah.
Um,
Like that one
Hmm.
was convenient for the time, but knowing what I know about it, like it really is not the optimal way to play Game Boy on your TV. However, there are mods for that one, which are really
yeah.
interesting. But then of course we're getting into like unofficial uh, sort of stuff. But yeah, it really is too bad they didn't release the Super Game Boy 2 outside of Japan, because then that gave us a link cable, you know,
To be
compatibility.
fair, the other thing you forgot, Skulls, the SNES is actually technically region free.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
like a lot of consoles around then, like their region locking was
Yep.
hardware based in the shell. So uh, if you like cut a tab or two, or what have you, then you can play the games from any region. Though of course PAL games would not work due to
Nope.
the hertz difference.
yeah.
But Japanese ones, hey,
Let's go.
Though of course,
Exactly.
American cartridges could not fit in Japanese systems.
No.
So you'd have to get like an adapter for that, which some people have made and whatnot. So it's cool in that respect. That also applies to other cartridge-based systems from around the time, uh, up into the N64. So that's pretty cool.
Hmm.
Uh, so with that said, let us move on to our number one picks. I'll lead off this time with the Nintendo GameCube. Uh, my
Nintendo GameCube.
my my favorite system ever. Best console ever made. I don't care what
Oh
anyone has to
dang,
say. Uh,
dang.
it's not me basing it off of anyone else's opinions. This is my opinion. God damn it. But yeah, I love the Nintendo GameCube. Also, my favorite controller as well. But I'm gonna try to be quick about this because I've talked about it a million times before. Uh, but we over the years got three GameCubes. The first one was for my older brother's ninth birthday. That served us for 2 years before my little sister thought that it would be a great idea to shove a Butterfinger bar into the Player One controller port for some fucking
No.
reason. Uh, so we could play games, but it was only games that would allow you to start from Player Two, or any of the other slots. So
So you couldn't play Metal Gear Solid.
not that we had it, but Uh, so that was, we needed to get a second GameCube. So we did Christmas that year, 2004, and that one served for another 4 years before, unfortunately. And I think it was a combination of the like the crappy SA2 disc that I had at the time. It was starting to cause some problems, and I was getting disk read errors consistently. Uh, and then I think what the fucking death knell was my also crappy copy of Sonic Heroes. Uh, that's that's buying games used is really a risk. And I did eventually trade that SA2 in for a better one. I still need to get a better copy of Heroes. And like the problem with that copy of Heroes is that like the inner ring, I think it does have some scratching around it too, on like the disc part, but like the inner plastic ring that like rests around the spindle is like chewed up to fucking hell. And that's the exact reason I've never put my copy of Heroes in my Wii, because it just sounds ripe for fucking up the the disc tray in my Wii. Uh, but I think that's what did it in my first copy of SA2, because it was kind of a slow death too, because it was getting the disc read errors, and then like uh, one strange thing that happened was my Chow data got deleted, but not like my proper game save
Hmm.
data. Sorry, my brain just turned off there. But like my story data was the same, nothing changed, but all my Chow got deleted somehow, which is a glitch I've never heard happening to anyone else. So strange, but
Well, I know how that happened. It's specifically because it's different data on the GameCube, the memory card.
yeah,
So
but like,
you could delete Chow Garden stuff, but not the save data. You could
I
do that.
mean. I don't know. Maybe someone deliberately did that to me and I never noticed. But just one day it was there, the next day it wasn't. But due to the discrete errors, unfortunately, the GameCube needed to be replaced. So we got a third one in Christmas of 2008. Uh, I still have to this day. I think we still have the other two as well. So we could actually Frankenstein that one or those two into a working GameCube. But uh, that's aside from the point. All three of them were the black GameCube, if that's worth any mention at all. Um, and that system, much like the Super Nintendo, is very special to me. It was like the second console basically that we got after our real proper introduction to video games and all that sort of stuff. Uh, the honorable mentions, I want to mention Melee. That was the game that my brother received
Let's
on his birthday.
go.
Uh, for our first GameCube. Uh, and just the way that game presents itself is so beautiful. They just got all the theming and the graphical style. The soundtrack is easily one of the best video game soundtracks ever made. Uh, the way they remixed certain themes or like the game's own original music. That choir that they got, whatever it was, just fucking goats, all of ya. Uh, uh, and it was really fun to play too. I never got any good at it, but smacking people around even when you're god awful garbage at the game can be fun as well. But the other honorable mention is Sonic Adventure DX, the first real proper game that I ever beat. Uh, I really felt my skills as a gamer grow as I was playing through it. I beat it much quicker than I ever would have expected at the time,
Mm,
and it was just a very solid one. After I got or after we got the third GameCube, that was one of the games that I got for Christmas with it, and it was just a solid time through the end of '08 and into the very early part of 2009 with that one. But my proper game mentions here, uh, Star Fox Adventures. It has to be said, and I haven't even done like a full playthrough of the game myself yet. But this game, along with some other pieces of media, but this is like one of the biggest examples of that. Really got my family through a rough stretch. Uh,
mm,
and I will forever appreciate it for that. How it's like the only video game I feel as well that my three or sorry my brothers and I could gather around a singular video game, but to get like my little sister and my mom involved as well, all of us were invested in it. Uh, the story and its developments and whatnot, amazing. Uh, we talk about like how great the music is, or again like the aesthetic and the style they were going for. The fidelity of the graphics must be mentioned, because the team at Rare at the time when it was a Nintendo subsidiary, they were so fucking good at optimizing the hardware that they were using, and I feel like Star Fox Adventures is one of the best examples of that because those graphics stood up even like early into the seventh gen, like they were that good. Uh,
yeah, you're right. You're right about that. My goodness.
uh, and just like we loved the story, even even realizing later on that like yeah the ending of the game could have been better, but still like that doesn't take away any of the special memories. And just being there for that first playthrough, took my older brother 2 months to beat Andros at the very end, and it was a fucking celebration when it finally went down.
Mm,
So that one I will just always hold near and dear to my heart. The other one that I want to mention is Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. The first
Yeah.
That's actually the very first Sonic game that I ever played. When it first came out,
yeah.
uh, at a Toys R Us kiosk. My older brother and I played it, and he figured out how to jump the ramps in City Escape, or I think it might have been the downhill boarding level. Either way, he didn't tell me how to do it, so he won by cheating. Uh, so years later, I'd been into Sonic for a year. And I'd been hearing, how good this game was. I already had the Mega Collection, which actually did deserve an honorable mention. Uh, because that's a great compilation. But aside from that point, you know, I got it, and I was super hyped for this one, and getting a Sonic 3D experience. And man, did I get a good one. Uh, you know, the mech levels and the treasure hunting levels aren't quite up to par with the speed levels, but I think that there is good in all of Sonic Adventure 2. Uh, you know, and of course the Chow system and whatnot. just a beautiful game all around. And it took me a good while to finally beat it for the first time, but oh man, that sense of accomplishment that I had when I beat SADX a month earlier it was right there. You know, uh, SA2 was like the second proper game that I ever really beat, and it just makes the whole thing so special to me. And uh, yeah, that's basically my nostalgia for the GameCube. I love the system. It's my favorite system. It's the best system in my opinion. Nintendo GameCube, fucking fantastic job, Nintendo. It really is too bad that this thing didn't sell more because I feel like it really deserved to. So, uh,
Yeah. The fact that the GameCube had a handle, honestly, really innovative.
No,
and
I agree with that. I mean,
Yeah.
what with our my uh s- okay, so in my high school, we have a tradition here since we're so close to Lake Michigan. When you graduate, the seniors do something called Senior Beach Week, where we go out to the state park and on Lake Michigan for a week, and we borrow or like use our parents' campers or borrow a friend's camper or RV or something like that, and we all go out for a week and have a good time. Well, there were a couple rainy days, so I had my OG Xbox, and my friend brought his GameCube. So what did we do? I hooked up like four RVs together because I was the nerd in the group and had a dedicated router for LAN parties.
Just want to
And
say that TTP is the nerd of the group with this one particular here too.
thanks, boss.
no shame.
Thumbs up
Nope,
emoji.
no, I have no shame
We
because
we are we are proud of our nerdery here.
it's
No,
true.
I'm not, you bunch of nerds. I'm gonna beat you up, stuff you in lockers.
Well, no, please don't.
No. Actually,
Anyway,
actually,
our
actually,
attacking it.
good luck stuffing me in a locker. One, I have a 2 foot shoulder span. Number one, and number two, I hold a black belt, so I'm not just like, yeah, I may be a nerd and a dork and all that, but I can definitely hold my own.
Oh dang, throwdown challenge. I see how it is. Anyway, you're
TTP
in your
actually carries
RV
me
tapping
around in a
inside.
backpack for my protection.
Oh, that's kind of cute.
Anyway, so like I always had I carried a router with my three I carried around a router with my OG Xbox, and so we could have impromptu LAN parties, and I always had like 50-foot Ethernet cables that were crosstalk cables, so that way you could actually connect two Xboxes together if you wanted to, and have a smaller LAN party, with 8 people instead of 32. But anyway, so one of the rainy days, like we had the GameCube with us and the OG Xbox, and well, what do? You play Melee, and so here we are on the shores of Lake Michigan. It's raining. What are you gonna do? GameCube it is. So
Legit.
Hell
and it
yeah.
was small. It was so small. Not like it's such a freaking small console. Like you can shove it in a backpack and still have room for more shit in your backpack. And like how cool was that? And that was amazing, and the handle too. I agree. Little things like that, in all honesty, in my opinion, go a very long way. And props to Nintendo.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of neat things that the GameCube has that people didn't use. The Game Boy Advance player, as I mentioned before, um, in particular, the internet connection that it actually did have that everyone decided to ignore and say that Nintendo did not have internet. And it's just like, what? It
I
did.
mean, it was online for like 2 games and then LAN for another 2 games, but that's all that little adapter was ever used for.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying though, is it was ignored entirely when it could have been used.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
Like it
it
had that ability.
it
Nintendo did not market that very well
yeah,
and
they
could have
thought
done a
like
lot more with it.
they infamously thought online gaming was a fad at the time, so they didn't bother trying to do a service or
Yeah.
let the devs do their own service through the GameCube LAN, which uh, very unfortunate as it is, because would have been cool, but it just wasn't meant to be.
Meanwhile, you have Sega over here going, Sega Channel, hello.
Yeah, man,
And that was an internet. That was like a cable service.
yeah, they really did have some far out there ideas, but also very ahead of their time in some respect.
Oh, for sure.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Uh, it is, for its setbacks, certainly, having less media space on their discs and not really, making a lot of use of online and whatnot. The GameCube still packed a good punch, had a lot of great quality titles on it and everything. So yeah, um, let us transition here to Lost uh, for her number two, or sorry, number one rather, gaming console. What's your pick?
So remember how you talked about Sonic Adventure 2?
Yeah.
Battle specifically? Oh, I know a little console that also had Sonic Adventure called the Dreamcast. And boy,
I
howdy, I love the Dreamcast. The Dreamcast is a dream for Cass. Oddly enough, I did get this from my dad. He actually bought it for me when I asked for it, and it's a little bit sad that the Dreamcast pretty much died almost immediately the year after the fact. He even mentioned offhandedly, so like, how come I had to spend this much money when I could have got it for cheaper? And like to that, I was like, I don't know, because like I actually did like playing my Dreamcast. I had plenty of games on there, although they're probably the same that a lot of other people had, the Sonic Adventures and whatnot. And one of those in particular that I think a lot of people are going to be like, why did you mention this? But I will say this now in total defense of it, and I will always defend this game. Sonic Shuffle. I love
Hmm.
Sonic Shuffle. I think it's one of the best games out there in terms of party games. Legitimately, if you look at Sonic Shuffle and the way that it was designed specifically, um, it's really cool how they have effectively what is a proto Wii U type screen that shows your cards, and you can actually strategize in terms of like how you move around and you do stuff. And like it's one of the few party games out there that like has enough there where you actually do party stuff comparatively to like Crash Bash or like those Pac-Man world things and whatnot. And like it has this neat little shell shaded type of style that I really love. And it had its own really neat little story that was insanely frustrating to get through because the PCs on Sonic Shuffle were merciless, just entirely merciless. And it was always a raging situation for me to play through that game. But I can't think of any other game out there that quite quantifies the Dreamcast to me than Sonic Shuffle and how much time I spent on it. The VMU in particular is just super, super neat as its own little thing. You could have had it for those little chow, like adventures and whatnot that you could take your chows on. And it was used for a bunch of other little things like, not necessarily, what are they called? Not eye catchers, but like occasionally when like the game would load, it would change into something else or like it would show different information. But it basically acted as a separate screen that was akin to the Wii U, but like knew that the controller was the most important thing to it. And it's kind of insane to me when you look at the Dreamcast, you look at the launching titles, and you look at all the titles that came out immediately after the fact, and notice that it generally has an amazing library for how little it has. There are so
Hmm.
many games on there that just are insanely good bangers, or like could be played on other stuff, but they work there too. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is on the Dreamcast. A bunch of other Capcom fighters are on the Dreamcast, like the um, I think Street Fighter 3, um, Double Impact, and its third iteration of it, Third Impact, were both on there. And you have like a few other things like the Sega Genesis um, collection that they brought out that actually ended up making it so you could play a writable disc on the Dreamcast, which is a bit unfortunate in terms of design, but a godsend for any indie developers out there that want to like just put out a game physically. You could do that for the Dreamcast in particular. And then you had like the ability to play disc on it, and it actually did use the internet before I want to say the vast majority of other consoles did. I know the PS2 was capable as well as the GameCube at the time, uh, but the Xbox wasn't quite there yet. It was going to be, and actually, I would say Xbox led the charge in terms of normalizing it, but it just wasn't there at the current time that Dreamcast was out. And Fantasy Star in particular being one of those big charges towards it. Uh, but just there's so many really good games out there that I feel like um, they're just kind of missed or not shown despite the quality of it. Like Skies of Arcadia, Space Channel 5, and Grandia 2. Grandia 2 being one of the few games that was released initially on Dreamcast and then was later ported on to another one that was a third party game. Generally, one of the best RPGs I've played within the last 10 years or so. Just generally astounding in terms of like what it did and what it could do. And I just really love how the Dreamcast was able to like handle these kind of graphics in the sense that like it made a really nice RPG like this. And also did things like Skies of Arcadia and, of course, the aforementioned Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2. But I think a lot of people tend to forget that Sonic Adventure 2 has a feature in it that Battle does not have. And I'm really annoyed that it doesn't have this. If you go into the Chow Garden and want to race your own Chows, you could only do up to 4 Chows on the GameCube version. But in the Dreamcast version, you could do up to 8. So you could have a normal Chow race with all your Chows. It's really neat. It is super cool. And it was not brought back at all. No other version has it like that, aside from maybe a modded version from the Steam port and whatnot. And then you also have like these neat little things like the downloaded content for like Nights or for Sonic Adventure, where like you had uh Christmas themes and whatnot. And just like to me, a lot of the Dreamcast had a vast amount of potential that just flickered out quickly enough because people did not want to go further into it. The ill will that Sega created with the Sega Saturn and the 32X just caught up with it to the point where, like, despite it having literally probably the best console out in the market, it still flopped. And it's really sad too because I do consider Dreamcast's logo, the logo itself, to be the best logo in all of gaming in
It's
terms
so
of the way
aesthetic.
it's designed.
Mm-hmm. It
Yeah,
really is.
exactly. You see that little spiral thing there? It's simplistic, it works, it feels good, and it's
The
just,
font is great.
yeah, it's really
Yes.
slick. Exactly. And it makes me sad that like we didn't get these things. And there's like Typing of the Dead, House of the Dead. There's so many games that got released for the Dreamcast and like so many experimental little things to it, like Samba de Amigo and like Seaman, that just like it infuriates me that the potential was all there and it just died out.
Yeah,
But
you
no,
know,
go ahead.
you talk about like how we mentioned earlier with Sega really thinking ahead with that sort of stuff. The Dreamcast was a gold mine of that sort of stuff. You know, a centralized online service, internet browser, crossplay was a thing on Dreamcast. Motion controls. Uh, it had DivX video support, so you could watch movies on it if you wanted. Uh,
Yep.
you know, it did a lot of those things first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's insane how well the Dreamcast just had so many things thought out for the future and had a lot of good things in the beginning and just didn't work. It's so fascinating in that sense of gaming history. On top of the fact that like its design as a whole, I feel is like one of the best designs of gaming. It's fairly small comparatively for a console in that era, and like little ports that it has is really neat, and it has this little light that it turns on when you turn it on, and while it's super loud as a fuck, but just so many neat little things to it. It's such a neato console that like will never escape my mind because of just how in the zone it was. And despite the fact that Dreamcast era is dead, if you pick up a Dreamcast like I did at Goodwill, which was amazingly able to find for $30 with two controllers, um, you could just relive it again. There's nothing stopping you comparatively to the 3DS. And like the library there, despite being as small as it is, generally has an amazing quality to it. And to me, all those things attached to it, to the fact that like you can continue to develop for the Dreamcast, won't be wide release, but you can still develop for it. Like it's still going technically. That's really super neato. I love it to death for that reason alone.
Yeah, just a neat little box. You mentioned the size, and actually, I remember when I got uh, like that's one that I got too. But just to be succinct here, I'll mention when I first got my original Dreamcast, I picked it up and I was like, geez, this is pretty heavy for the size. Uh,
Yeah, it is. It's a very heavy little thing.
yeah. Um, did you mention uh, your games?
Oh, I probably planted that in too much, but Sonic Shuffle and Grandia
Right.
2.
Yeah. 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 Okay. And I do remember some honorable mentions in there. Uh,
Sonic Adventure 2, yeah.
yeah. So Dreamcast is fantastic. That would have been one of my honorable mention picks because I love mine to death, but the fact that I still only have two games for it, I was like, I want to put it here, but I can't justify it with only two games. Uh,
Personally, for me, I generally want to own all the Dreamcast games. Like that is a goal of mine, like an overall arching goal. If I could own every single Dreamcast game, and I feel like any given game collector will have that moment where they want every single game for a particular console or handhelds,
well, uh, uh, best of luck. Uh,
right?
yeah. So TTP.
Yes,
You get
let's hear it.
you get the honor
Oh,
of finishing this list here with your number one pick. What's your favorite console?
But before I dive into that, I just want to talk about the Dreamcast for a couple moments here because first of all, Lost, just so you know, there is a revitalization of Dreamcast online servers. In fact, if you have the Ethernet hookup, there's the cool thing about the Dreamcast is Sega designed it modular, so you can pull out certain modules and swap it out for other modules. One of the things is the modem. You can either get a 56K dial-up modem in it, or you can get the Ethernet hookup, and
If you
you
can
can
afford it.
it, or you build it yourself, and
Fair.
like, and that's what a lot of people do is they'll build their own Ethernet mock-ups for it. But anyway, there is a group of people, and it's definitely growing. It's called Dream Pie, and Dream Pie basically helps you get your Dreamcast online, so you can play the Dreamcast games, the OG Dreamcast games online, console to console.
Yeah,
And
that does remind me of how like certain games allow private servers to be made. So like there's still there's still groups of like Quake 3 Arena players, right, that still get together on Dreamcast
mhm,
and play those.
Ooh.
And they've been doing that forever.
yes.
So that is really cool that like the fan scene does that sort of stuff, like remaking the Sonic Adventure 2 website, for instance, so that the DLC can be downloaded.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Uh, so really, really cool stuff like that. Sorry for interrupting.
No, 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 no. You're fine. No, you bring up some really good points, and it's true. So yeah, there's video tutorials on how to get set up with DreamPie and all that, and get online and with your Dreamcast, and I think that's super cool. And yeah, lost somebody. Yeah, it was lost. You lost. You said you got your Dreamcast at Goodwill.
$30
Yeah.
with 2 controllers.
So that's a great deal
Oh,
because
oh, that's not even my best deal. Believe it or not, I actually got Tales of Symphonia on the GameCube, everything in it for $4.
Ooh.
wow.
Yeah, yeah. I'm really good at what I do.
That's awesome. So there's a game shop not too far from my sister's house that I like to pop into from time to time, and I've met both owners and have had some really good chats with them and whatnot, and they have a pretty good stock of stuff. Like I could walk in there today, I can get a Saturn, a 32X, a Dreamcast, and all that, and I'm just like, oh my god, my poor wallet. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, fully working Dreamcast $70, and I'm just like, okay, like you have my attention. I don't have the money right now, but yeah, you definitely have my attention. I'm definitely gonna come back because I still kick myself. I missed out on the Dreamcast, and I regret I did. I do. That's probably my biggest gaming regret, honestly, is not jumping on Dreamcast, even though it wasn't around very long and whatnot. Believe me, like it, I'd still have it. I'd still have it, all the games and everything, and the VMUs and everything. Like, yeah, we go back to the innovation, and there's another innovative thing from Sega, like the VMUs, where they're like own like mini gaming consoles in a way.
Yeah.
It like super cool stuff. And again, kudos to Sega. Again, it's too bad that it died when it did, because Sega was on the cusp of it. It was like, it'd be interesting to see if the Dreamcast were delayed by a year, where it would have ended up in terms of like where it was technologically, because like as Skull said, like we're talking, the Dreamcast was a little bit ahead of its time in terms of the way Sega was thinking and whatnot. So makes
Yeah.
me wonder, like where it would be, like if it were delayed by a year or something. Like you can't help but wonder.
I
It's
kind of
interesting.
feel that way in like sort of opposite terms, whereas like, when the system launched over here, the PlayStation 2 had already been announced. Uh, so many people who were either burned by Sega or who really liked their PS1s were very content to wait. Uh, what I kind of wonder is if the PlayStation 2 had come out a year later, and if also
Mm,
perhaps that Sega had introduced DVD support to the Dreamcast as well, because that's very important. Uh,
true.
uh,
Uh, no, that wouldn't have happened. As much as I love the Dreamcast and I'm sad that things went out, the only way that it would have been saved if the PS2 came out later. That is the only way that it could have ever been saved.
like again, if they hadn't announced the PS2, if the PS2 was still like another year off from
Yeah.
where it actually came out, uh, and I feel like it's very important to mention the DVD support because like PlayStation 2 for the first year didn't have a whole lot of games, but it was the cheapest DVD player on the market, and that was becoming the new interesting technology at the time. Uh, so I
I
feel like
mean,
if Sega had you know uh, introduced some kind of support for DVDs, uh, that it would have helped them have that edge.
it
That
wouldn't. It wouldn't specifically because Sony owns DVD stuff. That's why Xbox had to pay so much
DVD
for that
is
purchase.
DVD is a collective by a
Oh,
bunch of different
I'm thinking of
companies.
Blu-ray. I'm thinking of
Yeah, you
Blu-ray.
are thinking
Sorry.
of Blu-ray.
Blu-ray. Yeah, Blu-ray. Yep.
Uh,
Hmm.
but yeah, it is interesting to think about the what ifs. But let us think about the solid facts here. Uh, what is the fact of your favorite game console TTP?
Yeah, so my number one pick, and please hear me out because I think people would see this as a cop out, and it's not. It is not. There is an explanation for it, and that is PC. Now,
No, I don't accept that. Console, come on. If you say Steam, I'll give it to you. If you say GOG, I'll give it to you. But it has to be something more than that.
well, hang on, because yes, Steam is a huge part of it.
So
So
Steam, I'll give it to you.
yeah, so let me let me let me talk through it here.
Go ahead.
Here's the thing: when you have this very powerful machine here that can do more than just gaming, right? But it depending on how they're built or how you build it, and there's another aspect to it. It's basically a thing that you can build to play games on. And it's thanks to like Steam that we have like a centralized online gaming catalog. Not only that, it brought back like retro games to and brought it to the computer, which is great. But the PC, it opens up gaming for people that may not be comfortable. Let's say you want to play something like, okay, then I guess you would have to modify your Xbox, to like to play older games or modified games and things like that. Um Most people today can do things like that on an older PC. It can be a 10-year-old PC and you can still use it to play retro games. It's powerful enough to play anything in the retro category. And I mean they're getting smaller. Look at the Steam Deck, for example. There's a YouTuber maybe about a year and a half ago made a video about playing every single Sonic the Hedgehog game on a Steam Deck, and it works. Like we're talking like the arcade Sonic games even. And and they're able to just play it. Uh Excuse me. And they're using some controller mapping shenanigans and whatnot, like are able to play like the old games. Now, are they playing it and how it should have been played? No, they're not. Like, if you want to do that, then go get yourself a arcade cabinet and learn arcade gaming architecture and things like that. But it gives people an opportunity to play games that maybe they couldn't have played uh back then. Like for me, like the Dreamcast. So how did I do it? Well, for me it was I got lucky with the Wii because the Wii had GameCube abilities. But for some people maybe they didn't have a GameCube even or a Wii. So PC it was. Not to mention like it makes it easy to add like mods and things like that to gaming. Again, like something you'd have to modify a console to put in a mod for a game. Versus PC, like in 5 minutes, I can just go to Game Banana and grab something and change a game in some way, shape, or form. Like there's a lot to it, and Steam is a huge part of that. Like prior to Steam, really everything was just decentralized. There was compatibility quirks and issues and things like that. But I mean, Steam has really centralized gaming as a whole, and thanks to things like remote play, or not remote play, what is that called? Steam Link, that's it. Thanks to
Hmm.
things like Steam Link and things like that, like you can do a lot. I mean, hell, I got a Raspberry Pi microcomputer right here. I could load Steam on it and pretty much use my Raspberry Pi as a pocket-sized gaming console. Hell, I could throw RetroArch emulation on my Raspberry Pi and play pretty much everything up through Gen 6 if I wanted to. Um, on a little microcomputer, on a single board microcomputer. It's insane. What you can do. It opens up the world and expands the options and choices that for people to have. Like some people are not comfortable like modding their own Xboxes or PlayStations and all that. And I mean, shoot, Sony got on people's asses for modifying their consoles, and whatnot. Like, so yeah, lots of stories in the media about stuff like that. But PC really opened up the world for people to experiment and do things with. And yeah, I yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say on the PC side of things. It does give people a choice, especially people that don't know the ins and outs of modding console or something to to that effect. Because like I said, you can take a 10-year-old computer and pretty much play any retro game. Now, Sonic Frontiers and things like that, yeah, no, you're gonna need a little bit of a more modern, beefy computer to do it. But again, pretty much just boils down at the end of the day, like what you're looking for in terms of gaming. But I hope that all made sense. Uh, and yeah, I hope yeah.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
you made perfect sense.
cool, 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 cool. Like I know, like it doesn't count, but yes, in terms of like Steam and whatnot, yes, like it's nice that we now have a centralized gaming platform on the PC with a ton of options, and not to mention, like, I mean, the Steam Deck is a mini PC.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It runs Linux in the background. Um, yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, buddy. You have like any game mentions?
See, and this is where it's tough for me because there are so many interesting and good games out there. But another thing for me that I really like about PC gaming is accessibility. I cannot even begin, as a legally blind person, I can't even begin to tell you how nice it is to get on a PC and have accessible games to me. That would be very difficult now. Now, I have to say it is getting better. PlayStation 5 has a ton of new stuff for accessibility, even the PS4 too, which is great. And game developers are starting to understand the importance of accessibility as well, which is great. But like PC has added things like screen readers and magnifiers and things like that, which for me, that's what I need, and it does help. But in terms of games and whatnot, when it comes to the PC, honestly, I I really like Sonic Frontiers. Like, if we're gonna stick into the Steam side of things, like I really like Sonic Frontiers in terms of modern, and I actually with the mods and things like that, I like playing Adventure and Adventure 2. Like I think those are uh great for the PC, and you can customize it every which way you want. You want Dreamcast lighting in Adventure? There's a mod for it. You know, just an example. So
Hmm.
Mm.
Uh, well, I'll give you a freebie, TTP. Considering how vast the subject is, uh, would you have any pick, honorable mention, whatever, for like we'll say like a retro PC, like pre-Steam, pre-centralization. You have to go out to the store and buy the disc and install the game yourself, sort of deal,
Yeah.
like a PC game like that you might want to mention.
actually, yes. If you want to talk about like a retro game that I actually really enjoyed, you're gonna laugh. Oregon Trail.
Hey, there we go.
I love freaking
Oregon Trail, you mean?
yeah,
Did
Oregon
not-
Trail. I love that game so much. It was so great. I love it.
Your accent is definitely showing for sure.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I love Oregon Trail, and it's that was a fun game to play. And it
Mm.
was on all the school computers in my middle school as well. So it was like one of the approved things that that we could play. So not to mention, you know, I love what Microsoft did as well. There was a hidden pinball game in Microsoft Word that you could play.
Huh.
You'd visit the help menu, and then there was like some keystrokes you could enter while you're in the help menu, and it would load up a game of pinball within Microsoft Word. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, that was like little Easter eggs and shit like that was really cool. That was back in the day. I highly doubt that's there anymore. But yeah, like in the like very late 90s, like 97, 98, 99, around there, Office 97, it had that hidden pinball game in the help menu.
Oh, cool. Uh, uh, as far as retro PC is concerned, and before we get to wrapping this whole episode up, major props to the Windows 95 versions of Free Cell and Solitaire. Uh,
Yes.
Spent a good amount of hours in that. Uh, Goated games right there. Uh,
Oh.
so it looks as if we've reached the conclusion of this one here. Uh,
Well, well, one thing that I want to mention in particular about Oregon Trail is that they actually do have this neat little keychain version of it that hopefully shows up over here on your all's end, where you can actually play it on like this little um, handhelds, just Oregon Trail. It's
Yeah.
really neat. It's just a little keychain. It's like $21 right now. But like, yeah, it's a neat little thing.
Nifty.
I like that. That's so cool.
That's why I wanted to show it.
Yeah, it reminds me of like those teeny little arcade cabinets. I know like the Angry Video Game Nerd has a few of them in his background.
Mm.
You get like this tiny little Frogger or like other sort of games. It kind of reminds me of that. Um, but yeah, uh, after 2.5 hours, which makes this the longest podcast I've ever been or I've ever conducted.
Dolly.
Yeah, I mean, no, we had a lot of stuff to go over. Uh, we have reached our conclusion here. So you know, if you have sat down here watching the VOD, you've heard the whole conversation. Why not write down in the comments your own top three gaming platforms and honorable mentions and the sort. I love hearing people's stories. And hearing like what games and what systems and whatnot are special to them. I think it's really cool to get that piece of someone's memory, uh, and all that, and just to hear someone fondly explain why they love something so much. Uh, so yeah, if you feel inclined, please do let me know. Um, so yeah, lots of interesting discussion on this one. Lots of solid picks. Lots of fun along the way. So TTP Lost. Thank you very much for joining me here.
Well, we still have a question in particular.
Oh shit! I
Oh
completely
yeah,
forgot the fucking
we
Q&A
do.
segment. All right, let's God, I'm stupid. Q&A. From Ultimate Spider Plush to everyone, what would you do if there was a super awesome and cool console that could play every video game ever? And I can't believe, because I had something special in the notes here too. I wanted to mention that the question reminded me of uh, the guy's name is Richard. I don't remember the last name, but thinking about the Angry Video Game Nerd, it's the dude that made the Nintoaster. Uh, he made a different console back then, where he took the parts from an NES, a Super Nintendo, an Atari 2600, and a Sega Genesis, uh, and he called it the Super Genintari. Uh, and uh, it just reminded me of that. But a console that could play everything and would be compatible with every controller and whatnot would be awesome. But I imagine it would also be prohibitively expensive.
Well, yeah, but you're like already own it. Like that's the case in point.
Uh,
Yeah,
but if I mean, what would you do if there was a super awesome and cool console that could play it? It doesn't specify that we have it. So uh,
Oh,
my answer to that is probably be sad that I don't have the money to afford such a thing, and hoping that everyone who does have it is having fun.
well, first I'd freak out, number one, and then buy it. Because, well, one, I want to look at the technology that it's incorporating and everything, like, because that's just the kind of person I am. I have to know how it works,
Yeah.
um, and what makes it tick. But if we had like a universal gaming system, like I want to play a Game Boy game, cool. I can slap a Game Boy cartridge in there and it will work. Uh, I want to put in a PS1 game, cool, it works. I want to play a 360 game, it works. Like, um, you know, take the IP rights out of the equation for a minute. Having something like that at our disposal would be absolutely amazing. Not to mention, like, even if you throw emulation at it too, like allowing people to experiment and do like indie development and things like that on it natively. Holy crap! Like having that be like your test box for gaming would be amazing. Especially if you could make it cost effective, which, okay, great. You can make it cost effective, sweet. But if you're gonna make it like thousands of dollars, like, and puts it pretty much out of the hands, out of like 97% of the gaming population, um, then what's the point? But I I'd love it, and I would totally buy it if it were financially feasible. But alas, with copyrights and IP protections and things like that, like it realistically it'd be a nightmare. But we can dream. We can dream.
Yes. Yes. Uh, Lost to your answer.
um, I was definitely a little bit confused at first with this question because I kind of already have that in my mind. All the games I have, I could play, and I pretty much own every console and whatnot. I know there's like some swapping involved and whatnot, but To me, I wouldn't want something like this. It definitely feels to me like if you get rid of the consoles that are there, you kind of get rid of a part of what makes it unique. And anyone that has played the SNES nowadays or any other various things knows that the feeling of it is just different comparatively to playing it via emulation on a PC or various other thing like that, like on Steam Deck or something. And this isn't bad necessarily. I'm not trying to be elitist about it because I would personally like for people to play as many games and able to play as many games as possible, especially with the way that licensing has gone with a lot of mobile games and a lot of these events in particular just being inaccessible and everything. But in terms of like IP stuff and various ways that you could keep something unique, I'd probably be against getting this. I think it's happy. I'm happy for other people that are able to get it and they only get like the one console. But to me, I feel like it definitely trivializes how unique each individual console is, and I do want the ability to play older games and whatnot, but I feel like that is carried on with the PC in general. Um, and we don't necessarily need a console to fill that in to get all the consoles. Um, but that's just me. I will, however, say this much as a more positive note. I have been getting into something called retro achievements, which is basically like
Yes.
this own little system where they make their own achievements for these old games, and you're able to sign up and use various emulators that help keep you track of all those backup games that you've had to emulate, so you can play them and whatnot. And that's been really fun and interesting to see as like an execution situation. And if the console had something like that, where like it was implemented, I would definitely be a little more in favor of it, simply for the fact that it brings something new to the actual experience, aside from the fact that I could just play something, you know?
And there we have it.
Mm.
Uh,
Yep.
Spidey, I am so fucking sorry. I damn near glossed over this. Uh,
Be lucky that I'm here, then, I
yeah,
guess.
thankfully, Lost was there to take the old reminder baseball bat to my head. Uh, so yeah, that's what we've got here for today. As I said, as I was trying to wrap things up prematurely before, let me know what your favorite platforms are, uh, what makes them special to you, and so on and so forth, the games that you like, and all that. And again to Lost and TTP, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It was definitely a fun experience, and as my friend has told me before, uh, definitely should probably think about doing a podcast because I love talking about video games.
For sure. This was a really fun thing, and I love doing these podcasts. Speaking of which, uh, again, as I mentioned earlier, here at the beginning, next month is going to be the last of these little test episodes to see if we can do more memory lane buddies afterward. Uh, I'm bringing out the big guns here for this one for discussion about Sailor Moon. I'm gonna have Rabid. I'm gonna have Georgia. And then I'm also bringing on KN from Sonic Sound 182, as well as Jen, Time Soup, and maybe Courtney Project SAT as well. So a big panel here to talk about a fucking fantastic franchise. And I do very much look forward to that. So we'll see if we'll see you there potentially.
I'm a little sad I can't participate because I actually do like Sailor Moon, and I really do want to talk about more anime stuff with you, Skulls, because I feel like you need it.
There is quite a contingent of Sailor Moon fans in my friend circle. It was hard to
Mm.
to get a lock. I could potentially do a second one, but
Oh
for
no,
those
you're fine.
for those of you who want to see it live, it's the podcast audience channel membership level, $6 a month. Uh, will get you access to seeing these recording sessions live. So say if I have to edit something out, you get the bloopers live in person. Well, maybe not in person, but uh, and then just as well, you get to ask a question for the Q&A segment that hopefully I don't almost skip over. So
You'll just have to have like me or KN or somebody else like that.
Yeah.
I'm sure there will be someone to remind me if I forget again. But you get to ask a question to whoever on the panel that you want. As long as it's within YouTube's rules, and we will answer the question. So it's not like a normal Q&A segment from like one of my streams where like got all the chat there and we can't necessarily get to every message. But for these, guaranteed. So yeah, and of course, if not, the VOD will be up within a week after the session. So yeah, that'll do it here today for Memory Lane buddies. Uh, and again, looking forward to the next episode. We'll see you there next month for when that's going to be. So, with all that said, I have been Skull902.
I've been Lost Later.
And I've been Tales of Power 71.
Thank you for watching, and have yourselves a wonderful day. Bye bye, everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye.